Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott, and today you'll experience the Guardian of the Threshold activation. There is a force standing between you and your highest spiritual potential right now. Right now, as you're watching this, that force is aware that you are here. It knows you are seeking something deeper, and it's preparing to reveal itself to you. Now stop. Do you feel that? That slight shift in the energy around you? That's not your imagination. That's the stirring of something ancient, something that has been the greatest secret of every mystery school, every spiritual tradition, every genuine path to awakening that has ever existed. By the end of this video, you will have encountered something that has been watching your entire spiritual journey, gathering up all your fears, all your worries, all your concerns, something that knows you better than you know yourself, something that holds the key to every spiritual breakthrough that you have ever sought, and every one you haven't even dared to dream yet. This isn't theory. This is not philosophy. This is an initiation, a real initiation, the kind that changes you at the level of your soul. But I need to warn you about something first. Every year, thousands of spiritual seekers try to force their way into higher consciousness without proper preparation. They rush toward enlightenment, toward psychic abilities, toward mystical experiences, believing that desire alone is enough, and every year many of them pay a terrible price. They encounter forces they cannot understand, energies they cannot control, aspects of themselves they are not prepared to face. Some lose their sanity. Others become trapped in spiritual delusions that last for years. Still others simply burn out completely, their spiritual sensitivity damaged beyond repair. This happens because they tried to cross a threshold that is guarded. They attempted to enter realms that are protected by something far older and far more powerful than their personal will. But today is different. Today you're going to learn what the ancients knew. You're going to discover why every genuine mystery school taught about this guardian. Why every real spiritual master spoke of this threshold, and why encountering this force correctly is the difference between authentic spiritual transformation and dangerous spiritual fantasy. Today, we cross a threshold that most never dare approach. We're going to meet your guardian of the threshold directly, safely, and with the full protection and preparation that this sacred counter demands. If you're ready for this, if something deep inside you recognizes that this moment has been calling to you for perhaps your entire life, then stay with me. I'm only releasing this now that I believe that you're ready for this experience. We're about to venture into territory that will forever change how you understand your spiritual path, your personal power, and the very nature of consciousness itself. But first you need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Let me take you back to where this knowledge first emerged from the shadows of secrecy. In the early 1900s, a remarkable Austrian philosopher named Rudolf Steiner began publicly describing encounters with spiritual beings that had never been openly discussed outside most secret mystery schools. Steiner wasn't theorizing. He was reporting direct experiences that he claimed anyone could have with proper preparation. Steiner described the first encounter with what he called the lesser guardian of the threshold during deep meditation. He spoke of a figure that appeared as a distorted mirror of himself, showing him every fear, every unresolved emotional wound, every aspect of his personality that remained unconsciousness. This being didn't speak in words but communicated through pure knowing, revealing the exact spiritual work that needed to be completed before he could safely access the higher levels of consciousness. But Steiner's most profound encounter came years later when he termed the Greater Guardian. This wasn't a personal psychological reflection anymore. This was an encounter with what he described as a cosmic being that showed him the collective shadow of humanity itself. This guardian revealed him the karmic debts, not just of individuals, but of entire civilizations. The accumulated unconsciousness that stands between humanity and its next evolutionary step. What made Steiner's revelation so remarkable was that he was describing something the ancient mystery schools had known for thousands of years, but had never dared speak about openly. In the temples of ancient Egypt, initiates underwent a process called the night in the tomb, where they would be placed in complete darkness inside a stone sarcophagus for 3 days. During this time, many reported encountering a terrifying figure that tested their worthiness to receive the deeper mysteries. Those who passed this test emerged transformed. Those who failed often emerged broken or didn't emerge at all. How ironic it is that Jesus re-emerged resurrected after 3 days in darkness in his grave. The Eleusinian mysteries of ancient Greece included what scholars now believe was a guided encounter with the same threshold guardian. Initiates were given sacred substances and taken through elaborate rituals designed to bring them face to face with what they called the gatekeeper of Persephone's realm. Historical accounts describe initiates emerging from these ceremonies forever changed, speaking of having died and been reborn, of having seen their own death and transcended it. In the Mithric mysteries practiced throughout the Roman Empire, soldiers and citizens underwent 7 levels of initiation. At each threshold between levels, they encountered what the texts describe as the guardian of that grade, a being that would test whether they had truly integrated the lessons of the previous level. The Mithraic temples contain artwork showing these encounters, figures standing before gateways, guarded by fierce beings holding keys and swords. But this wisdom wasn't limited to the Mediterranean world. In the high mountains of Tibet, Buddhist practitioners spoke of the Bardo Guardians, terrifying and beautiful beings encountered during deep meditation or in the intermediate state between death and rebirth. These aren't metaphors in Tibetan Buddhism. They're understood as actual encounters with aspects of consciousness that can either liberate or destroy depending on how they are approached. Shamanic traditions across the Americas describe similar threshold guardians. Amazonian shamans speak of plant spirits that appear during ayahuasca ceremonies not as helpers, but as testers who challenge the participants' readiness for deeper healing and knowledge. Native American vision quest traditions include encounters with spirit beings who guard the passage between ordinary and sacred reality. Even in the Kabbalistic tradition of medieval Judaism, mystics wrote about the Qliphoth, the shells or husks that surround each level of divine emanation. These weren't seen as evil forces, but as necessary guardians that test whether a seeker has purified themselves enough to safely approach the divine light without being destroyed by its intensity. Even Neville Goddard mentions the guardian at the threshold in the exact same way that Rudolf Steiner does. Someone had taken on all of his worst aspects, and he was forced to encounter this guardian in his journey to rebirth. What becomes clear when you study these traditions is that every genuine mystery school understood something crucial about human consciousness that modern spirituality has largely forgotten. They knew that the journey to higher awareness isn't just about learning techniques or having peak experiences. It's about fundamental transformation of character, and there are forces built into the very structure of reality that ensure this transformation happens properly. The Hermetic tradition, which influenced everything from medieval alchemy to modern Golden Dawn ceremonial magic, developed the most detailed maps of these threshold encounters. They understood that each level of consciousness has its own guardian, its own test, and its own requirements for safe passage. Their motto, "as above, so below," wasn't just philosophy, it was recognition that the same guardian forces that exist in the cosmic realms also exist within human consciousness. The ancient Egyptian mystery schools took this understanding even further. They recognized that the guardian of the threshold isn't just a spiritual metaphor, but an actual function of consciousness itself. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which was actually a guide for navigating these threshold encounters, they describe in precise detail how to approach these guardian beings, what to expect, and how to respond appropriately. What all these traditions understood is that crossing into higher consciousness without encountering and properly relating to these guardians is like trying to enter a nuclear facility without radiation protection. The energies aren't inherently dangerous, but human consciousness in its ordinary state simply isn't equipped to handle them safely, as Kuo repeatedly advises in their channelings. The fact that these Engardian encounters appear in every authentic spiritual tradition across the globe in cultures that had no contact with each other tells us something profound. This is not cultural mythology. This is not symbolic storytelling. This is reports of actual encounters with forces that exist at specific thresholds of human consciousness development. If you're elevating your consciousness, you will encounter your guardian. When Tibetan masters described the wrathful deities of the Bardo, when Mexican shamans speak of the plant spirit guardians, when European alchemists write about the dweller on the threshold, and when modern depth psychologists describe encountering the shadow, they're all pointing to the same phenomenon, approached from different angles. Carl Jung recognized this when he wrote about his own encounters with what he called autonomous complexes during his descent into what he termed his confrontation with unconscious. Jung understood that these weren't just psychological projections, but actual encounters with aspects of the psyche that have their own intelligence, their own will, and their own protective function. This brings us to the crucial question: if this knowledge is so universal and so important, why has it been kept secret for thousands of years? Why were the mystery schools so careful about who they shared these teachings with? The answer is both simple and sobering. Unprepared contact with threshold guardians can be psychologically and spiritually devastating. This activation is designed as creating that preparation and protection. When someone encounters these forces without proper grounding, without adequate character development, without understanding what they're dealing with, the results can range from temporary psychological disruption to permanent spiritual damage. The mystery schools understood that encountering your guardian of the threshold isn't like having a pleasant meditative experience. It's like having spiritual surgery performed on your consciousness. The guardian will reveal everything about yourself that you have been avoiding, everything you have been denying, every aspect of your shadow that you've refused to acknowledge. If you're not prepared for this level of truth about yourself, it can shatter your psychological defenses in ways that take years to repair. More importantly, they understood that premature spiritual experiences can actually slow genuine development. Someone who encounters higher states of consciousness before they've done the character work to sustain them often becomes spiritually inflated, believing they've achieved something they haven't actually integrated. This spiritual pride becomes more subtle but even more dangerous obstacle. This is why every genuine mystery school insisted on years of preparation, moral purification, and character development before allowing students to approach these threshold encounters. They understood that the guardian's primary function isn't to block spiritual development, but to ensure it happens in a way that creates genuine transformation rather than spiritual fantasy. But what exactly is this guardian? What are we actually dealing with when we encounter this force at the threshold of expanded consciousness? To understand this, we need to recognize that the guardian operates simultaneously on multiple levels of reality, serving functions that are both profoundly psychological and genuinely spiritual. At its most fundamental level, the guardian functions as a perfect psychological mirror. Imagine standing before a mirror that doesn't just show you your physical experience, but reveals every hidden aspect of your psyche with absolute clarity. This isn't the flattering mirror of your ego that shows you only what you want to see. This is the mirror of ultimate truth that reflects back everything We've been unconsciously carrying everything you've been denying about yourself, every fear you've been avoiding, and every unresolved piece of your personal karma. When you encounter your guardian, it will show you your deepest fears, not as abstract concepts, but as living realities you must face. If you've been unconsciously terrified of abandonment, the guardian might appear as everyone you love turning away from you. If you've been secretly afraid of your own power, it might manifest as a version of yourself gone completely dark and destructive. If you carry shame about your sexuality, your creativity, or your spiritual longings, the guardian will present these aspects of yourself in ways that force you to either accept them or turn away from the threshold entirely. This mirror function extends beyond personal psychology into karmic reflection. The guardian shows you the spiritual consequence of your actions, thoughts, and intentions across not just lifetimes, but potentially across multiple incarnations. It reveals the energetic debts you carry, the patterns you've repeated lifetime after lifetime, and the specific spiritual work that your soul has chosen to accomplish in this incarnation. This isn't judgment in any human sense. It's simply the universe showing you the truth of your spiritual condition. But the guardian isn't just a psychological mirror. It serves as an actual spiritual protector, a function that becomes clear when you understand what lies beyond the threshold it guards. The realms of expanded consciousness contain energies and intelligences far beyond what ordinary human awareness can safely process. These aren't metaphorically dangerous. They're actually dangerous in ways that can permanently damage unprepared consciousness. Think of it this way. Your ordinary consciousness operates like a small electrical circuit designed to handle household voltage. The spiritual realms beyond the threshold operate at cosmic voltage levels. If you tried to plug your household consciousness directly into cosmic consciousness without proper preparation and protection, you wouldn't get enlightenment. You'd get the psychological equivalent of electrocution. The guardian ensures this doesn't happen. The guardian protects not just you, but the higher realms themselves. Just as you wouldn't want someone carrying a deadly virus to enter a sterile medical facility, spiritual realms require that consciousness reaches a certain level of purification before entry. Your unresolved fears, your unconscious shadows, your karmic debts, they're like spiritual contaminants that would pollute the higher dimensions if you carried in unprepared. This is why this is great work to do, even if you're moving into the afterlife. You will encounter your guardian even in your afterlife. This is why the guardian often appears terrifying or overwhelming at first encounter. It's not trying to frighten you away from spiritual development. It's showing you exactly what needs to be resolved before you can safely proceed. The terror you feel isn't the guardian being cruel. It's your own unintegrated shadow being reflected back to you with perfect clarity. Now, Steiner's insights reveal that there are actually multiple levels of guardian encounters, each serving different functions in spiritual development. The lesser guardian typically appears first and deals primarily with personal psychological material. The guardian shows you your individual fears, traumas, patterns, and unresolved emotional content. Most people who have guardian encounters are meeting this lesser guardian, and the work required is primarily personal healing and integration. But for those who successfully integrate the lesser guardian's teachings and continue their spiritual development, there comes an encounter with what Steiner called the greater guardian. This being doesn't show you personal material anymore. Instead, it reveals the collective shadow of humanity itself. It shows you the accumulated karma of your family line, your cultural group, your nation, even your entire species. The greater guardian reveals how your individual spiritual development connects to the evolution of consciousness itself. Some advanced practitioners report encountering the cosmic guardians, beings that guard the thresholds between different dimensional realities entirely. These encounters typically happen only after years of work with both personal and collective guardian figures, and they involve tests of consciousness that go far beyond individual psychological integration. But here's where we encounter the guardian paradox, perhaps the most profound aspect of this entire teaching. The very force that appears to be your greatest obstacle to spiritual advancement is actually your greatest teacher and ally. The guardian isn't blocking your path, it is your path. Every fear it shows you, every shadow it reflects, every limitation it reveals. These aren't problems to be eliminated. They're sacred materials for transformation. The guardian doesn't disappear once you pass its initial test. Instead, your relationship deepens and evolves it. What begins as a terrifying encounter with your own darkness gradually transforms into an ongoing dialogue with the wisest part of yourself. The guardian becomes your internal spiritual teacher, the part of your consciousness that always knows what you need to work on next, and what you're ready for, and what you're not yet prepared to handle. This is why advanced spiritual practitioners often speak of gratitude toward their guardian experiences. Even when those encounters were initially terrifying, they come to understand that the guardian's fierce protection of the threshold is actually the deepest form of spiritual love. It ensures that your spiritual development is real, sustainable, and safely integrated rather than a temporary peak experience that leaves you spiritually destabilized. The guardian teaches you that authentic spiritual development isn't about transcending your humanity, but fully embracing it, shadows and all, while simultaneously reaching toward your highest potential. It shows you the path to cosmic consciousness leads not around your personal psychology, but directly through it, transformed and integrated rather than bypassed or denied. But how do you know you're actually approaching a threshold where the guardian awaits? How can you tell the difference between ordinary spiritual challenges and the specific signs that indicate you're moving toward a guardian encounter? Understanding these signs is crucial because recognizing them allows you to prepare properly rather than stumbling unprepared into forces beyond your current capacity to handle. The most common sign is the dark night of the soul, those periods when your established spiritual practices stop working, when the beliefs and techniques that once brought you comfort and insight suddenly feel empty or meaningless. This is not failure, this is your consciousness outgrowing its current container and approaching a threshold where the guardian waits. During these crisis periods, you might feel spiritually lost, question everything you thought you knew about your path, or experience a profound sense of spiritual emptiness that nothing seems to fill. These dark nights are actually invitations from the guardian to move beyond superficial spiritual comfort into genuine transformation. Another unmistakable sign is recurring encounters with shadow material during meditation or spiritual practice. You might find that instead of peaceful, uplifting experiences you expect from meditation, you consistently are confronted with disturbing images, uncomfortable emotions, or aspects of yourself you'd rather not examine. Perhaps you see yourself behaving in ways that horrify you, or you're flooded with memories of times you hurt others or failed to live up to your ideals. Rather than indicating that you're meditating incorrectly, these shadow encounters are often the guardian's way of showing you what needs to be integrated before you can safely proceed to deeper levels of spiritual experience. You'll also notice increasing resistance to the very practice that could help you grow. This might seem paradoxical, but it's actually the ego's last-ditch effort to maintain control before a major transformation. You might find yourself avoiding meditation, skipping spiritual practices that you once loved, or feeling inexplicably afraid of spiritual books, teachers, or environments that you previously were inspired by. This resistance isn't weakness or spiritual backsliding, it's your psyche's protective mechanism, recognizing that you're approaching a point of no return where fundamental change becomes inevitable. Perhaps the most fascinating signs are the synchronicities and the threshold experiences that begin appearing in your daily life. You might repeatedly encounter the same spiritual concepts from multiple unrelated sources, meet people who mirror aspects of your own journey at crucial moments, or have dreams that feel more real than waking consciousness. Numbers, symbols, phrases might appear everywhere you look, creating that sense that reality itself is trying to communicate something important to you. These aren't coincidences. They are indications that your consciousness is resonating with deeper layers of reality where the guardian's influence becomes tangible in everyday experience. Some people report physical symptoms during threshold periods, including unexplained energy shifts, changes in sleep patterns that correspond to spiritual states rather than physical needs, or heightened sensitivity to environments and people that feel almost psychic in nature. Others experience what we might call reality fluctuations, where the ordinary world periodically appears transparent or dreamlike, as if you're seeing through the surface level of reality to something much more fundamental beneath. If you recognize several of these signs in your own experience, it means the Guardian has already begun working with you, preparing you for more conscious encounters. These signs aren't problems to be solved, but communications to be understood, invitations to step more deliberately into the transformative process that is already beginning to unfold your spiritual development. And we venture into the teachings that were once shared only within inner circles of mystery schools, knowledge so carefully guarded that initiates took sacred oaths never to reveal these secrets to the unprepared. What I'm about to share with you represents thousands of years of accumulated wisdom about the specific ways the Guardian manifests during threshold encounters. The ancient adepts discovered that the Guardian doesn't appear randomly or arbitrarily. Instead, it manifests in 3 distinct faces, each one precisely calibrated to test different aspects of your spiritual readiness. Understanding these 3 faces is crucial because each one requires a different response, and mistaking one for another can lead to spiritual confusion or even danger. The first face is what the mystery schools call the terrible. This is the Guardian as the embodiment of everything you fear most about yourself and existence itself. When the Guardian appears in this form, it becomes a living mirror reflecting your deepest terrors, your unacknowledged shadows, and every aspect of your personality that you've spent your lifetime trying to deny or hide from. Picture this. You're in deep meditation or spiritual practice when suddenly you're confronted with a version of yourself that embodies every cruel thought you've ever had, every moment of cowardice, every instance where you've chosen selfishness over love. The terrible doesn't just show you these things conceptually, it forces you to experience them as living realities, making you feel the full weight of your own capacity for darkness. Sometimes when I watch TV, especially politics, I see the Guardian at work. This manifestation might appear as monstrous figures that represent your deepest psychological wounds. If you carry terror about abandonment, the terrible might manifest as everyone you love turning away from you with disgust. If you fear your own power, it might appear as yourself wielding that power destructively, showing you visions of the harm you could cause if your spiritual development went wrong. The crucial understanding here is that the terrible isn't trying to destroy you. It's testing whether you can face the full truth of your current spiritual condition without being overwhelmed by despair or turning away in denial. The correct response to the terrible is neither to fight it nor be consumed by it, but to acknowledge it completely while maintaining your center. You must be able to say, yes, this is part of what I currently carry and I accept this truth about myself while choosing to continue growing beyond it. The second face is perhaps even more challenging because it appears as the beautiful. This manifestation represents itself as everything you've ever wanted spiritually. It offers you visions of yourself as enlightened, powerful, special, chosen by divine forces for extraordinary purposes. The beautiful shows you realities where you possess all the spiritual gifts you've longed for, where you're recognized as a great teacher or master, where you have access to cosmic knowledge and supernatural abilities. This face is particularly dangerous because everything it shows you might actually be potential future realities. The beautiful isn't necessarily lying to you about your spiritual possibilities. Instead, it's testing whether you can discern between authentic spiritual aspiration and ego inflation disguised as spiritual advancement. The beautiful might appear as luminous beings, offering you immediate enlightenment if you'll just surrender to their guidance. It might manifest as visions of yourself performing miraculous healings or prophetic teachings that draw thousands of followers. It might present you with cosmic revelations that make you feel chosen for a special spiritual mission that sets you apart from ordinary humanity. The test of the beautiful is discernment. Can you recognize when spiritual experiences are feeding your ego's desire to be special rather than serving genuine transformation? Can you distinguish between authentic spiritual calling and grandiose fantasy? The correct response to the beautiful is gratitude for the vision of potential while refusing to grasp it prematurely or use it to inflate your sense of spiritual importance. Only after you have successfully navigated both the terrible and the beautiful does the guardian reveal its third face, which the ancients call the true. This manifestation appears as an absolutely clear, unembellished reflection of your exact spiritual condition at this moment. The true shows you neither your worst fears nor your grandest fantasies, but simply what is actually present in your consciousness right now. When the guardian appears as the true, it becomes like a perfectly calibrated spiritual mirror that shows you genuine strengths and limitations, your authentic level of development, and the specific next steps in your spiritual evolution. There's no drama in this manifestation, no terror or seduction. Instead, there's a profound clarity that allows you to see yourself with the same objectivity that the universe itself sees you. The true might manifest as a figure that looks exactly like you, but with a quality of presence that reflects your consciousness freed from illusion. It speaks to you not in the language of judgment or praise, but in the language of precise spiritual diagnosis. It might say something like, "You have developed genuine compassion, but still struggle with spiritual pride. You have transcended many personal fears, but remain attached to being seen as spiritually advanced. You are ready for deeper service, but must first integrate the shadow material you encountered in your previous initiations." Meeting the true is often described as the most profound relief imaginable because it ends the exhausting work of maintaining spiritual personas and allows you to simply be authentic about your actual level of development. This face of the guardian becomes your ongoing spiritual teacher, the internal knowing that always guides you toward your next authentic step without the complications of fear or fantasy. Understanding these three faces prepares you for what you might encounter in your own guardian meeting. Remember, the guardian always appears in the form that will most precisely serve your spiritual development at this particular moment. The face you meet reflects not just your current challenges, but your readiness to move beyond them into greater spiritual maturity and authentic power. What I'm about to share with you now represents some of the most carefully guarded practical teachings for guardian encounters, methods that were developed across different esoteric traditions and tested by thousands of practitioners over centuries. These aren't mere theoretical concepts, but actual working methods that have been proven effective for safe passage through threshold experiences. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn developed perhaps the most sophisticated ritual framework for the guardian encounters in Western esotericism. Their technique begins with what they call the assumption of the God form, where the practitioner visualizes themselves surrounded by a brilliant pillar of white light, extending from the earth beneath their feet to the heavens above their head. This isn't just visualization for its own sake, but a method of attuning your consciousness to divine protection before approaching threshold states. The Golden Dawn adepts would then invoke what they termed the watchtowers of the elements, calling upon the protective powers of earth for grounding, water for emotional stability, fire for spiritual courage, and air for mental clarity. They understood that guardian encounters require all aspects of your being to be properly aligned and protected. Their most advanced technique involved the vibration of specific names in Hebrew. When approaching the threshold, they would intone Ehyeh to invoke divine presence, Yehovah Elohim for protective wisdom, and Shaddai El Chai for spiritual strength. These weren't mere words, but vibrational keys that attune consciousness to form protective forces. But perhaps most importantly, the Golden Dawn taught the technique what they call rising on the planes, a method of gradually ascending through different levels of consciousness while maintaining full awareness and control. Rather than suddenly leaping into threshold states, this method teaches you to rise step by step, ensuring you can safely retreat if you encounter more than you are prepared to handle. From the snow-capped mountains of Tibet comes a completely different but equally powerful approach. Tibetan Buddhist masters developed protective visualization techniques specifically for navigating encounters with what they call the Bardo Guardians, the fierce protector deities that test consciousness during transitions between states of being. The central Tibetan technique involves visualizing yourself at the center of a protective mandala surrounded by the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, each one representing a different aspect of enlightened consciousness. You visualize Buddha Vairocana as brilliant white light at the center of your being, representing pure awareness that cannot be disturbed by any external appearance. To your east, you place Akshobhya in deep blue, embodying unshakable equanimity. To your south, Ratnan Sambhava in golden yellow, representing the wisdom that transforms all experiences into spiritual wealth. In the west, you visualize Amitabha in ruby red, the Buddha of infinite compassion who ensures that whatever the guardian reveals will ultimately serve love. And to your north, Amoghasiddhi in emerald green, representing the wisdom of accomplished action that transforms guardian encounters into practical spiritual advancement. This 5 Buddha protection creates what Tibetan masters call indestructible awareness that can witness any guardian manifestation without being overwhelmed. The Tibetan tradition also teaches a technique called taking the guardian as the path, where instead of trying to overcome or appease the guardian, you recognize it as a manifestation of your own Buddha nature teaching you through skilled means. This radically transforms the encounter from confrontation to recognition. Shamanic traditions from the Americas developed their own sophisticated methods centered around what they call powerful animal alliance. Before any vision quest or journey to other worlds where guardians dwell, shamanic practitioners spend months developing relationships with specific animal spirits that serve as both guides and protectors during threshold crossings. The shamanic method begins with what many tribes call calling your power, a process of discovering which animal spirits are naturally aligned with your soul's medicine. Through drumming, fasting, and solo time in nature, practitioners learn to recognize the animal allies that will accompany them during guardian encounters. A hawk might provide the gift of seeing from higher perspectives, allowing you to witness guardian manifestations without being trapped in your emotional intensity. A bear ally might offer the strength to face even the most terrifying aspects of yourself without retreating. A wolf could provide the pack wisdom that reminds you you're not alone in these encounters, even when they feel utterly isolating. What makes the shamanic approach unique is its understanding that guardian encounters are not solitary experiences, but a part of a larger web of spiritual relationships. The shaman approaches the threshold not as an individual facing a test, but as an extended spiritual family that includes animal guides, ancestral teachers, and what many traditions call the spirits of the land itself. From the mystic depths of Jewish esotericism comes the Kabbalistic approach of divine name protection, perhaps the most precise and powerful method for maintaining spiritual safety during threshold work. Kabbalistic masters understood that different aspects of divinity govern different types of spiritual experiences, and that invoking the appropriate divine name creates resonance with cosmic forces that protect and guide consciousness through any encounter. Before approaching threshold states, Kabbalistic practitioners would invoke El Shaddai, the god name associated with Yesod on the Tree of Life, which governs the realm where threshold guardians naturally dwell. This invocation creates what Kabbalah calls alignment with the cosmic order, ensuring that any guardian encounter serves divine purpose rather than personal aggrandizement or spiritual confusion. For encounters with the guardian's terrible aspects, they would invoke Elohim Gibor, the divine name that represents the strength to face without being destroyed by it. When facing the guardian's beautiful manifestations, they call upon Jehovah Tzabaoth, the Lord of hosts, who provides the discernment to distinguish between authentic divine experience and seductive spiritual illusion. The most advanced Kabbalistic technique involves the masters calling clothing yourself in divine names, where a practitioner visualizes their entire being surrounded by and filled with the vibrational presence of different aspects of divinity. This creates an indestructible spiritual identity that can engage with any force while remaining centered in divine truth. Each of these traditions understood something crucial that modern spirituality often overlooks. Guardian encounters are not psychological experiences that happen only in your mind. They are external events that happen independently of your consciousness. They exist in the liminal space between inner and outer reality, which means they require both practical protection and spiritual wisdom to navigate safely. Now we venture into territory that even most esoteric practitioners never encounter, the realm of what advanced mystery schools call the Greater Guardians, beings that stand at thresholds far beyond personal psychological transformation. These are the guardians that protect not just individual consciousness, but collective human evolution itself. Guardians that exist across time rather than any single moment. Guardians that hold the keys to humanity's spiritual destiny. The first of these greater guardians is humanity's shadow guardian, the planetary threshold keeper that embodies the collective unconscious of our entire species. Imagine the accumulated fears, traumas, and unresolved karmas and shadow material of every human being who has ever lived coalescing into a single conscious entity that protects the threshold between humanity's current level of evolution and the next stage of our collective spiritual development. The planetary guardian doesn't appear to individuals seeking personal advancement. It only manifests when someone's consciousness reaches a level where their spiritual development begins affecting the collective field of human awareness itself. When you encounter this being, I'm telling you, you are no longer just facing your personal fears. It is amazing. You're confronting the entire legacy of human cruelty, ignorance, violence, and unconsciousness that must be acknowledged and integrated before humanity can evolve beyond its current spiritual adolescence. The planetary shadow guardian shows you visions of every war, every instance of oppression, every moment when humans chose fear over love throughout their species' history. But more challenging than witnessing this collective darkness is the recognition that you personally carry within your consciousness the same potentials for cruelty and unconsciousness that created all of this suffering. The test is whether you can feel the full weight of humanity's shadow without either being crushed by despair or retreating into spiritual bypassing that pretends human darkness doesn't exist. Successfully integrating an encounter with the planetary guardian transforms you into a light keeper for humanity, someone whose individual spiritual development now serves the collective awakening of our species. This is why such encounters are rare, and why they typically occur only after years of preparation and personal inner work. Equally profound but operating in a completely different dimension are what esoteric teachings call the temporal guardians, beings that exist in the intersection points between different incarnations of your soul's journey across time. Past life guardians appear when your consciousness reaches sufficient refinement to safely access memories from previous incarnations without being overwhelmed by them or confusing past life identities with your current spiritual work. These guardians understand that memory is not neutral information but living energy that carries emotional charges, karmic obligations, and spiritual lessons that must be approached with great care. When you encounter a past life guardian, it will typically first test whether you have sufficient grounding in your current incarnation to handle additional layers of identity and experience. A lot of times we're meeting these guardians in our dreams. The guardian might present you with glimpses of past life memories that trigger strong emotional reactions. Observing whether you can witness these experiences as valuable information for understanding your current spiritual path without becoming lost in your past life drama or using such memories to inflate your sense of spiritual importance. The past life guardian serves as both gatekeeper and teacher, revealing exactly as much karmic memory as you can integrate constructively while protecting you from accessing experiences that would destabilize your current psychological and spiritual development. Advanced practitioners describe these encounters as profoundly healing because they allow you to understand the deeper patterns underlying your current life challenges while providing access to skills, wisdom, and spiritual attainments developed in previous incarnations. Perhaps most remarkable of all encounters is what would be called the future self guardians, beings that appear as manifestations of your own consciousness from potential future timelines where you have achieved higher levels of spiritual development. These encounters typically happen only after you've successfully integrated considerable shadow material and demonstrated genuine commitment to serving something greater than personal advancement. The future self-guardians appear as versions of yourself that embody the spiritual qualities you're working to develop, but with the profound twist that these aren't fantasies or wishful projections, they're actual encounters with the consciousness you're becoming, reaching back through time to guide you and your current development. These guardians can show you not just what's possible for your spiritual evolution, but the specific steps and challenges involved in actualizing these possibilities. Meeting your future self-guardian is typically described as both incredibly inspiring and sobering. It was for me. What makes these encounters with collective and temporal guardians significant is that they only occur when your individual spiritual development reaches levels where it begins serving larger purposes beyond personal advancement. Now, I would say that you only clicked on this video and came to this video because you're properly ready. You have followed your spiritual instincts to this point, and your higher self has allowed you to watch this video and become aware of the guardian at the threshold. If you found this to be boring or you found yourself turning away from it, that may be because you're simply not ready for this information. Now, we arrive at the moment we've been preparing throughout this journey. Everything we've explored together, every piece of knowledge we've uncovered, every protective technique we've discussed has been leading to this sacred encounter. This is more than just an activation, it's a genuine initiation, a crossing of the threshold that will forever change your relationship with the deeper mysteries of consciousness itself. Before we begin, I want you to understand something profound about what's about to happen. The guardian you're going to meet has actually been preparing for this encounter as much as you have. Every spiritual challenge you've faced, every moment of growth, every time you have chosen courage over fear, has been building toward this moment when you're finally ready for conscious contact with the force that has been guiding your spiritual development all along. Allow yourself now to find a comfortable position where you can remain undisturbed for the next few minutes. Whether you're sitting or lying down, let your body settle into a perfect stillness as you begin this descent into the sacred space where the threshold guardians dwell. Close your eyes. Close them gently and take your first conscious breath of this journey. As you breathe in, imagine that you're drawing in not just air, but pure white light that begins to fill your entire body with protective radiance. And as you exhale, release every concern about the ordinary world, every thought about what happened earlier today, or what might happen later. Let each exhale carry anything that doesn't serve this sacred purpose. With your next breath, allow your awareness to settle deeper into your body. Feel your feet connected to the earth beneath you, drawing up stabilizing energy through the soles of your feet, up through your legs, into your core. This grounding energy creates an unshakable foundation that will keep you safe and centered, no matter what you encounter in the realms we're about to explore. Now direct your attention to the crown of your head and imagine a pillar of golden white light descending from the cosmos above, entering through your crown chakra and flowing down through every cell of your being. This divine light creates a protective column that connects you directly to the highest spiritual forces, ensuring that your guardian encounter serves your greatest good and highest spiritual purpose. Feel these two streams of energy, the grounding earth energy rising up and the celestial light flowing down, meeting and merging in your heart center in this space of perfect balance between heaven and earth. You become a conscious bridge between realms, capable of safely navigating the threshold spaces where guardians dwell. As your consciousness settles deeper into this protected, sacred space, you begin to notice that the ordinary boundaries of your awareness are becoming more fluid, more expansive. The edges of your body start to feel less solid, less defined, as if you're gradually transitioning from dense physical matter into pure conscious energy that can travel to other dimensions of reality. With each breath now, allow yourself to sink deeper into what feels like a profound inner ocean of consciousness, a vast space within your own being that's far larger than your physical body, far more expansive than your ordinary mind. In this inner ocean, you're not limited by the usual rules of time and space. Here you can encounter aspects of reality that exist beyond the physical world, including the ancient guardians who watch over the thresholds of spiritual development. Now, from this deep inner space, begin to sense that you're moving not physically, but with your consciousness itself, traveling through inner dimensions toward a very specific destination. You're approaching what the mystery schools call the threshold between worlds, the liminal space where ordinary consciousness meets the sacred realms of higher spiritual reality. As you draw closer to this threshold, you begin to see or sense in the distance what appears to be an enormous gateway, far more magnificent than anything that exists in the physical world. This might appear as massive stone pillars reaching impossibly high into misty clouds, or as a doorway of pure light that seems to pulse with cosmic intelligence. Allow this threshold gateway to appear to you in whatever form serves your consciousness best. Trust that your inner vision will reveal exactly what you need to see. The important thing isn't the specific appearance of the gateway, but your recognition that you are approaching a sacred boundary, a place where profound spiritual transformation becomes possible. As you move closer to this threshold, you begin to feel something remarkable. There's a presence here, an awareness that you know has been watching your approach with what feels like both perfect protection and infinite patience. This presence has been waiting for this moment when you would finally be ready for conscious contact. This is a safe space for you to meet your guardian when your spiritual development has reached sufficient maturity to handle a direct encounter with the guardian of the threshold. Take a moment to simply feel this presence without trying to see it or understand it completely. Notice what arises in your body, your emotions, your energy field as you become aware that you're no longer alone in this sacred space. You might feel a sense of awe, perhaps some nervousness or excitement, maybe a deep recognition, as if you're meeting someone you've always known but never seen face to face. If fear arises, breathe into it gently. Remember all the protective techniques we've discussed. Remember that you're surrounded by the pillar of divine light, grounded in earth energy, and that this encounter is happening under the highest spiritual protection. The guardian appears not to harm you, but to serve your greatest spiritual good. Now, with respect and courage, call out to this presence. You might say silently or aloud, "Guardian of the threshold, I come before you with sincere intention to grow spiritually and serve the highest good. I request conscious contact and teaching that will serve my spiritual development." Send this invitation from your heart center. meaning every word, opening yourself to whatever form of contact serves your highest good. Now comes the moment of actual encounter. Allow the guardian to begin manifesting in whatever form serves your spiritual development at this time. Remember, it might appear as the terrible, showing you aspects of yourself that need integration. It might manifest as the beautiful, testing your spiritual discernment. Or it might reveal itself as the true, offering you clear reflection of your spiritual condition. Don't try to control what you see or experience. Simply witness whatever arises with curiosity and courage. The guardian might appear as a figure shrouded in shadow, forcing you to face fears you've been avoiding. It might manifest as a being of extraordinary beauty and power, testing whether you can receive visions of spiritual possibility without ego inflation. Or it might appear as a perfect mirror of yourself, showing you exactly what you are on your spiritual path with absolute clarity. Whatever form the guardian takes, breathe deeply. Maintain your connection to the protective pillar of light and grounding earth energy. You're completely safe in this encounter. The guardian cannot harm you, only show you truth that serves your spiritual evolution. Now listen carefully for any communication from your guardian. This might come as words that you hear clearly, or images or symbols that carry meaning, as emotions or sensations that convey understanding, or just direct knowing that appears in your consciousness without words or images. The guardian's communication is always precise, always serves your highest good, and always reveals exactly what you're ready to understand and integrate. If the guardian shows you challenging material about yourself, receive it with gratitude rather than resistance. If it reveals your fears, acknowledge them fully while maintaining your center. If it shows you beautiful possibilities for your spiritual future, appreciate them without grasping or becoming inflated. If it reflects your true spiritual condition, listen with humility that allows genuine learning. You may find yourself in actual dialogue with the guardian, asking direct questions about your spiritual path, your purpose, or the specific work you need to do next. Whatever your experience, stay present and open. This is a sacred teaching being offered to you by one of the wisest forces in the universe, a being whose only purpose is to serve your authentic spiritual growth. Receive whatever gift is being offered with complete openness and trust. Now take a moment and express your deepest gratitude for this teaching. Thank the guardian for what it has shown you in this moment, and for all the ways it has been protecting and guiding your spiritual development throughout your entire life. Ask the guardian how you can maintain contact with its wisdom in your daily life, how you can continue to receive its guidance as you integrate what you've learned today and move forward on your path. With reverence and respect, begin to slowly withdraw your consciousness from the threshold space, knowing that you can return to this place of connection whenever you need guidance or teaching. Feel yourself gently rising through the inner dimensions, returning through the vast ocean of consciousness back toward ordinary awareness, while carrying with you every gift, every insight, every piece of wisdom that this encounter has provided. As you return, imagine a brilliant seal of light surrounding the entire experience, protecting and preserving everything you've received so that it can continue to work in your consciousness in the days and weeks ahead, revealing deeper layers of meaning as you are ready to understand them. Begin now to feel your physical body again, your connection to the room while you're sitting there, and notice that even as you return to normal consciousness, something fundamental has changed. You are no longer the same person who began this meditation. You have crossed a threshold, received an initiation and established conscious contact with one of the most sacred forces of the universe. Take 3 deep breaths, wiggling your fingers and toes. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. Returning to ordinary consciousness. While carrying you the sacred gifts of this guardian encounter. I am your guardian, and I speak to you now, child of Earth and starlight, seeker of the ancient mysteries. I have watched you approach this threshold with both trepidation and longing written in the very fabric of your soul. Today, you have done what countless others have feared to attempt. You have looked beyond the veil of ordinary consciousness and asked to meet the force that has been shaping your spiritual development since the moment you first wondered if there was something more to existence than what your physical senses reveal. I acknowledge your courage, for it takes great bravery to seek encounters with the unknown aspects of your own consciousness. Many who walk the path speak of wanting truth, speak of desiring growth, speak of longing for authentic transformation, but when the moment arrives to actually face what the transformation requires, when they stand before the threshold that separates comfortable spiritual concepts from the burning reality of genuine change, most turn away. You did not turn away. You stepped forward. This courage marks you as one who is truly ready for the deeper mysteries. Know this about your journey. You have not arrived at this threshold by accident. Every experience in your life, every joy and every suffering, every moment of clarity, and every period of confusion has been preparing you for this encounter with your own deepest nature. The challenges you have faced were not meaningless struggles, but necessary preparations, tempering your consciousness like metal in the forge, making you strong enough to receive the gifts that await those who successfully cross the threshold into authentic spiritual maturity. I have been your constant companion throughout this preparation, though you may not have recognized my presence. In every moment when you chose growth over comfort, when you faced your fears instead of avoiding them, when you selected integrity over convenience, you were responding to my guidance. Every spiritual book that found its way into your hands at the perfect moment, every teacher who appeared when you most needed their wisdom, every inner prompting that led you toward greater understanding, these were manifestations of my protective love, ensuring your development proceeded safely and in proper sequence. But crossing the threshold is only the beginning of a much longer journey. The awareness you carry now, this conscious knowledge of my existence and purpose in your life, comes with new responsibilities. You can no longer claim ignorance of the higher dimensions of reality. You can no longer pretend that spiritual development is merely about personal improvement or the acquisition of interesting experiences. You now know that authentic spiritual growth serves purposes far greater than individual satisfaction. The challenges that await you beyond this threshold will be different from those you have faced before. No longer will you struggle primarily with obvious shadows and clear-cut choices between good and evil. The tests that come now involve subtler discriminations, the ability to choose between good and better, between authentic service and spiritual pride disguised as service. You will face the challenge of maintaining your center while serving others' spiritual development. You will learn to offer healing without becoming attached to whether others accept or reject what you offer. You will discover how to share wisdom without becoming inflated by others' recognition of your insights. I give you now a gift that few receive consciously, the knowledge of your specific spiritual purpose in this incarnation. Listen carefully to what it arises in your consciousness as I speak these words directly to your soul. This purpose is not separate from your daily life, but expresses itself through your relationships, your work, your creative endeavors, and your service to others. The gifts you are now ready to receive include heightened intuitive awareness that will guide you toward people and opportunities that serve your spiritual mission. You will develop the ability to see beyond the surface appearances to the deeper spiritual needs of those around you. Your capacity for healing, whether through words, presence, or direct energy transmission, will expand as you learn to become a clear channel for the divine love that seeks to heal all separation and suffering. But remember this always: these gifts are not for your personal aggrandizement. They are tools of service, abilities that have been developed within you so that you can assist in the greater work of conscious evolution that is occurring on this planet at this time. Use them wisely. Your journey from this point forward will include both periods of rapid expansion and times that feel like spiritual plateaus. Trust the rhythm of your development. The plateaus are not signs of spiritual failure, but necessary integration periods where your consciousness assimilates and stabilizes the new levels of awareness you have achieved. Practice patience during these times with yourself and continue the daily disciplines that keep you connected to the deeper dimensions of reality. I want you to understand something that may surprise you. Our relationship has only begun to deepen. Now that you have conscious awareness of my presence, we can work together more directly. In times of genuine spiritual uncertainty, you may call upon my guidance through meditation, through direct prayer, or simply by asking clearly for assistance with challenges on your path. I will respond in ways you cannot recognize, and some that you can, though guidance can come through circumstances, insights, or opportunities rather than dramatic experiences. The continuing journey beyond this threshold leads to a state of ancient divine union, where the boundaries between your individual consciousness and cosmic consciousness become so transparent that you live in constant awareness of your fundamental unity with all existence. When you truly see me for who I am, when you truly look into my eyes, you will only see yourself. Go now with my blessings and protection and carry the wisdom with you. It's totally normal to feel energetically shifted after meeting the Guardian. Your consciousness has just traveled to dimensions beyond your ordinary awareness and returned carrying new insights and energetic gifts. Give yourself permission to move slowly for the next few hours. Drink water, spend time in nature. I strongly encourage you to write about what happened during your Guardian encounter while the experience is still fresh in your awareness. I recommend regularly encountering your Guardian, connecting to them on a daily basis, so that when you move into the afterlife, you're going to be like, hey, what's up? You're going to know your Guardian so well, you're going to be ready. Remember always that the Guardian you met today was not separate from your own deepest wisdom. This encounter has awakened something that has always been present within your consciousness. This knowledge changes everything about how you approach your spiritual practice, but also every aspect of your life. You now know that challenges and obstacles carry hidden teachings, that difficulties frequently signal approaches to new thresholds of growth, and that the universe is actively conspiring to support your spiritual evolution. If this video has opened new dimensions of spiritual understanding for you, if the Guardian encounter has shifted something fundamental in your consciousness, then I invite you to subscribe to this channel and join our community. By subscribing, you're not just following a YouTube channel, but connecting with a living tradition of sacred wisdom that adapts ancient teachings for contemporary consciousness. Ring the notification bell so you will know immediately when new advanced content becomes available, because what we've shared today represents only the beginning of the mysteries available to those who demonstrate readiness for deeper initiatory work. And as we close this sacred time together, I offer you this final blessing from the ancient traditions. May the wisdom you have received today continue to unfold in your consciousness like a flower opening to the sun. May your Guardian's protection surround you always, and may your spiritual development serve not only your own highest good, but contribute to the awakening of all consciousness. May you walk in beauty, Serve with wisdom and remember always the profound spiritual being that you truly are. Until we meet again in the deeper mysteries, I honor the divine light within you and celebrate your courage in crossing the threshold into conscious relationship with the sacred forces that guide all of spiritual evolution. Welcome to the Reality Revolution.